The night that changed everything began with a simple sentence that landed heavier than thunder, the kind that shakes walls and stirs old ghosts. Michael had not planned to stay late, had not planned to cross that quiet emotional line where exhaustion meets temptation, but there he was, standing in the warm yellow light of a modest suburban home in Columbus, Ohio, holding his coat in his hands while the weight of a single invitation pressed against every promise he had ever made to himself. He was a single father, worn thin by responsibility and memory, and the offer to stay the night felt less like comfort and more like a test he could not afford to fail. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet integrity that no one applauds but everyone needs, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only matter if they reach the right hearts. Michael's life had been built from careful choices after one terrible loss. 5 years earlier, cancer had taken his wife Rebecca and left him alone with a 4-year-old son named Noah and a grief that never fully slept. He learned quickly that single fatherhood was not heroic or dramatic, but deeply ordinary and exhausting. Mornings were rushed breakfasts and mismatched socks. Evenings were homework at the kitchen table and reheated leftovers. And nights were spent staring at the ceiling while memories crept in uninvited. He worked as a building inspector for the city, a job that paid enough to keep the lights on and offered no glory at all. What it did offer was routine, and routine kept him standing. Sarah entered his life quietly, almost by accident. She was a community outreach coordinator working with the city on housing projects, often crossing paths with Michael during inspections. She was kind without being loud about it, thoughtful without needing credit. She remembered Noah's name after meeting him once and always asked how school was going. Over time, their conversations grew longer, less about work and more about life. She knew he was a widower. She never rushed him. That patience felt like oxygen. On this particular evening, a sudden storm had rolled in hard and fast, flooding streets and knocking out power across several neighborhoods. Michael had been helping Sarah assess damage to a community center when the roads became impassable. Her home was close, his was across town, and the city advised people to stay put. She offered him a place to wait it out. Nothing dramatic, just shelter from the rain and a hot cup of coffee that tasted like safety. They talked for hours about small things, about Noah's obsession with dinosaurs, about her late father who taught her how to fix anything with duct tape and patience. The storm outside raged, but inside the house there was a stillness that felt dangerous in its comfort. As the night deepened, fatigue settled into Michael's bones. Sarah, gentle and unassuming, suggested he stay rather than risk the flooded streets. She gestured toward the sofa, making it clear she meant rest, not expectation. Yet something in Michael tightened. The sofa, innocent as it was, felt like a slope too slippery for a man who had rebuilt his life brick by brick. He thought of Noah asleep at home with a neighbor checking in, thought of Rebecca's photograph on the dresser, thought of the quiet vow he had made to live in a way his son could one day be proud of. He refused the sofa without hesitation. Not rudely, not dramatically, but firmly. He chose a wooden chair by the window instead, upright and uncomfortable, a small act of self-denial that spoke louder than words. It was not about mistrust or fear of Sarah. It was about knowing himself, knowing how loneliness can blur lines, knowing how easily good intentions can turn into regret. That night, as rain battered the glass and thunder rolled like distant drums, Michael sat awake, staring into the dark, wrestling with the ache of wanting connection while guarding the life he had built. Morning came quietly as it always does, indifferent to human turmoil. The storm passed, leaving the world scrubbed clean and shining. Sarah noticed the way Michael moved slowly, the stiffness in his back, the exhaustion in his eyes. She did not tease him or question his choice. Instead, she saw it for what it was, a man choosing integrity when no one would have blamed him for choosing comfort. That understanding changed something between them, deepened it. Respect once earned has a way of settling into the bones. Life did not suddenly become easier after that night. Michael still struggled. Noah had behavioral issues at school that led to meetings and whispered judgments. Money remained tight. Some nights loneliness pressed so hard it felt physical. But something had shifted inside him. He realized that strength was not about dramatic sacrifices, but about consistent, quiet decisions that aligned with his values. Sarah remained in his life, not as a temptation but as a steady presence. They took things slowly, painfully slowly by modern standards, building trust in daylight rather than shadows. Months later, on a crisp autumn afternoon in a park outside Dayton, Michael watched Noah laugh as he kicked leaves into the air. Sarah stood beside him, hands in her coat pockets, talking about a grant she was hoping to secure for a new youth center. There was no rush, no pressure. Just two adults choosing honesty over impulse. Michael felt something unfamiliar rise in his chest, not fear or longing, but hope that did not demand he betray himself to keep it. The real challenge came when Michael's past reared its head. On the anniversary of Rebecca's death, grief hit him like a wave he could not outrun. He withdrew, canceled plans, buried himself in work. Sarah noticed, of course. She gave him space but did not disappear. She left a note in his mailbox, nothing dramatic, just a reminder that grief does not have an expiration date and that he did not have to carry it alone. That small kindness cracked something open in him. He realized that refusing the sofa that night was not about pushing people away, but about inviting the right kind of closeness, the kind that honors loss without being imprisoned by it. Before we reach the ending, leave a comment right now sharing where you are watching from, and whether this story reminds you of someone who chose integrity when it was hardest. Time did its quiet work. Michael learned that love after loss is not betrayal but continuation. Not replacement, but expansion. Sarah learned that patience is not passive, but powerful. Noah, wise in the way children are, accepted her presence without question, sensing safety before logic. One evening, years after that stormy night, Michael stood in his own living room, watching Sarah help Noah with a science project. The house felt full in a way that had nothing to do with furniture or space. It felt earned. The memory of that chair by the window never left him. It became a symbol of who he chose to be when no one was watching. In a world that often celebrates impulse and shortcuts, Michael's story is a quiet reminder that character is built in moments of discomfort, that refusing the easy option can open the door to something deeper and lasting. Love, when it comes the right way, does not demand you abandon yourself to keep it. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that the hardest choices often shape the most meaningful lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps stories like this alive, and your support turns quiet moments of integrity into inspiration for others.